We want to be accepted by people, therefore we want to conform to what is acceptable behavior, and we don't want to step outside the norm. True happiness comes when you begin to find your own path. I think there's two forms of bravery, and I think what we normally associate with bravery is physical risk. And I've certainly done some of those things in motor racing, and because I used to be a professional racing driver. But I actually think it takes more courage to make what I would call psychological decisions about your life, when to make change. I think people have enormous difficulty stepping out of the known, going into the unknown. So making those sort of changes is tough, and I've made plenty of those too. I think everyone has their own particular path, and I think what you can do is help people to discover what their own path is by asking them challenging questions, and asking them probably questions that they haven't thought of themselves. What am I doing this for is a good question to be able to ask themselves sometimes. So they're quite sort of simple questions very often, but what they do is provoke the other person to think for themselves. I certainly would never give anyone any answers, but I would, because I believe they've got the answers within themselves if they begin to look. I think those answers are more accessible to some people than others, because people build up layers and layers of defense mechanisms and protecting themselves from the ravages of this kind of society that we've created. And it's harder. We're not encouraged to follow our own path, so to speak. We're encouraged to follow some of the paths that society sets us, or the commercial world sets us, and we tend to believe that that's the truth, and people are not happy doing that. I mean, true happiness comes when you begin to find your own path. Oh, I think there are a lot of things that set the rules for us. I think there are parental expectations to begin with. I think a lot of people, when they leave home, they are trying to prove to their parents they're okay. They never satisfied their parents at the time, and they're trying to satisfy their parental expectations. Even after their parents are dead, they still go on doing that. I think in many cases there's kind of religious conditioning. Even if you haven't been a particularly religious person, there are certain rules of you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and you should feel guilty if you do that, and so on and so forth. And then there's all the stuff about money and earning a living and so on and so forth, and all those sort of cultural conditioning. And then there's a sort of second tier of conditioning, like political correctness and all those sort of things that come in, that is almost sort of fashionable things that pass us by, and we have to obey those sort of things. And then I suppose probably the greatest one of them all is peer group pressure. We want to be accepted by people, therefore we want to conform to what is acceptable behavior, and we don't want to step outside the norm. And stepping outside the norm is the greatest liberation that most people can find. I think we live in a culture of fear. I think we live in a fear paradigm, and I think there's another paradigm for life, and that is trust. That is trusting life, trusting that life will unfold in the way it needs to in front of us. We don't have to have a blueprint or a plan for the next 5 years. Then you get stuck by conforming to your plan, and that stops you from hearing the message that comes from within about where you need to be today or tomorrow. I think just to say, what beliefs do I hold that I can recognize are beliefs and not truths, and then explore them. That's, I think, what people need to do, to just begin to explore. I trust absolutely that when they begin to explore those beliefs, they will find that they're not real, they are self-limiting, and there's life the other side of them, a great life. One question, one aha, suddenly can trigger a whole lot of different perspectives, and then you're on the way. I do know that if I'm still and quiet and I listen, I will always get the answers and the way to go. I trust absolutely that that is there. It's not even a question, is it? To me, it just is. The only question is, am I listening?